Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Google Developers Live. My name is Ikai Lan.
And I'm Nick Mihailovski.
You almost bought your own last name right there.
It's a hard last name. Sometimes, you have to. It takes a lot of practice to get it right.
I'm glad you had to do it instead of me.
Yeah, that's good.
Could have been me right there. So for this show, it's a very special edition because we'll be talking about Google Apps Script. And we were arguing before the show about whether this was my show or his show. Nick is here from the Google Analytics team, and we're going to be talking about ways that you can speed up how you use or optimize whatever verb you want to use. You can enhance your Google Analytics usage using Google Apps Script.
Absolutely. So Google Analytics, yeah.
So before we get started, there's going to be lots of people joining us from this show, half of which will be coming from the Google Analytics side, and half of us will be coming from the Apps Script side. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ikai Lan. I work on the Apps Script Developer Relations team. We have a regular show that runs every week where we do office hours, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to do more shows like this where we talk about how to use Apps Script with other Google properties. About 2 weeks ago, we did a show about using Apps Script with BigQuery, and today we'll be doing something with one of our most popular APIs, which is the Google Analytics API. Now, Apps Script for the analytics users, it's a way to automate and integrate all your different Google properties. So for instance, you might want to write a spreadsheet app that sends out emails or creates Google Documents, and that's what you would use Apps Script for. It's we have an editor, we have an IDE, it's all cloud-based. All you need is an internet connection and a browser, and you can start writing code to automate your workflows. And Nick is here because he works on the Google Analytics team, and he's going to talk to us about Google Analytics, the Analytics API, and some of the cool stuff that his team has been working on. I've heard the word magic thrown around a couple of times, so he'll be telling us about that.
Definitely a lot of magic in the show today, yeah, definitely.
So Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about Google Analytics? I mean, hopefully you've all heard of this. This is one of the most awesome properties on the internet.
Absolutely. Analytics is fantastic and absolutely amazing. What analytics allows you to do is it allows business owners to measure how users interact with your business. So if you own a website, you can now measure how many visitors come to your site, from where they come, and what do they do. You can also measure this kind of content interaction within mobile applications, websites, and we released something new called Universal Analytics that now allows you to bring Google Analytics to pretty much any environment, any platform to measure user interaction. So the Google Analytics platform is quite robust. There's ways to automate configuration, to collect data. One part that we're really excited about is our reporting APIs. And with the reporting APIs, it allows you to get the data, the actual reporting data, out of Google Analytics and put it into different environments. And so what we've done with Apps Script is we've made it a lot easier to use Apps Script to access your Google Analytics data.
Very cool. And you work on the API. So what is it that people use the Analytics API for? What are some of the most common use cases?
For the reporting API, it's a great question. I mean, when you think about how you're doing analysis, you typically are coming into the reports. You have a business question that you want to answer. And so the user interface provides this really rich experience to go in, configure reports, pivot on different data, and really answer the question. But what we found is once you've kind of got your initial question answered, what most people do is they'll return back to Google Analytics to view how that data is trending over time. Is it improving? Is it declining? And so this revisiting of data is an opportunity. It's a complex process. It's an opportunity to automate. So what a lot of people are doing is saving a lot of time automating all the reporting using our APIs.
So from a very let's use a bit more concrete examples. And let's say I've got a fantasy football website where I give out tips because I'm a champion. So I want to figure out what's the type of data I can track and what would I use the API for?
So if you have the fantasy football site, the first question you might answer is how many people are coming to my site?
I'd say on the order of 3 or 4.
Right. So ideally, over time, you'd want to know as the season progressed, as you do different things, is that increasing or decreasing? So your first experience with Google Analytics is figuring out where does the data live, what is that 3 or 4 number? But over time, you don't want to have to log in, click around, get that number again. You just want that number to be presented to you. That's where the automation of the reporting API comes in. Because now you could bring that data and put it in a dashboard that you can just view automatically without having to do all these logging.
And what's some of the data I can get beyond a number of viewers?
It's a huge amount of data. We have over 200 data points that are API.
200?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You can get data, geographical data, so from where in the world are visitors coming to your site. What was the different traffic source? What was the different ads? What content were they viewing? If you're on a mobile device, you might run a website. How many people are coming to your site from a mobile device? It's a simple question to answer using Google Analytics.
Okay, so I understand that there was some stuff you were going to show me.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've done is we've worked with AppScript. So if you're familiar with AppScript, it's a really easy way to automate processes. And so the integration we've done is we've created a couple APIs for Google Analytics using AppScript, allowing you to get access to your data.
So a little bit of background on AppScript. Again, AppScript, we started out as functions for spreadsheets. So things such as, I want a custom function. And we started branching out, doing more and more things. One of the most common use cases to AppScript is a mail merge. What you would do is you would set values, you would set email addresses in a Google spreadsheet. The AppScript will run on a periodic schedule, maybe once a day, maybe once a week. It'll go all the way down, and it'll email each person individually. And that's what we mean when we say automating and scheduling workflows. AppScript allows you to do this so that you don't have to manually do these repetitive tasks over and over again.
And that's why I think AppScript is such a perfect marriage for Google Analytics and the API, because you have this repetitive tasks accessing data that you just want to automate over and over again. So what we've done is we've released these APIs, and along with the APIs is we actually released an application. It's called the Google Analytics Reporting Automation Tool, or as what we call MagicScript.
MagicScript!
So MagicScript is awesome. What we pretty much did is we looked at all the different use cases people had for creating simple dashboards, and we said instead of having to write all the code, we'll just write the code for them, include the best practices, and release a script that integrates with Google Spreadsheets to allow you to get all your Google Analytics tabular data directly in a Google spreadsheet.
Very cool. And you're going to show us this right now.
Absolutely. So here I have a Google spreadsheet on my page. And what I've loaded the script before, and we'll link to some descriptions on how you can actually set the script up. I've gone ahead and set the script up already.
And what we'll do is this show will be posted to our standard channel on YouTube. It'll be YouTube.com/Google Developers. It's where all of our shows are. We will be posting links to all of the things that we're doing in this show. So if you're following along live or if you're watching this show, you can click those links. You don't need to remember what we're saying. Just wait for the show to get posted.
Absolutely. So the MagicScript is installed. We're ready to use the magic. So the first thing you'll notice here is there's a new menu item we've used. We've created, it's called Google Analytics.
And for the people who are new to AppScript, one of the things you could do using AppScript is you can add custom menus to spreadsheets. And this is often, this is a very good thing to do because a lot of times the people using your scripts are going to be people that didn't program and don't want to open up a script editor. In fact, they don't even want to know there is a script editor. They just want to know, where is my menu? I just want to push a button and do this thing. I want to run the mail merge, right? I want to verify these columns. That's why we allow people to build custom menus. And you guys have taken advantage of this to build a special custom menu for Google Analytics.
Absolutely. If you don't code, you're still going to get value from the MagicScript. Totally. So here's the custom menu for Google Analytics. There's a couple different options here that you have that I'll talk through as well. What we've also done is when the script runs, by default, it creates this new tab at the bottom called GA config. And we'll show you how to use this. So the first question, the first task you want to do is get some data out of analytics. So what you do is you go to the menu, you create core report. Now go ahead and run a script that will update the GA config tab. And there you go. And now when you access data from analytics, you generate a query. And the query specifies the data you want to get out of the product. In this case, there's a couple required fields. The first one is understanding in analytics, what is the report profile? Where is the set of data that you want to access to? And that's defined in the query by what we have here is the IDs parameter. Now, most people don't know what their IDs parameter, and we know that and understand it. So what we've done is we've created a little tool under the Google Analytics tab here and menu. And when you click Find Profile IDs, we'll go out using the API, query all the counts for the authorized user, and present a dialog that shows you all the IDs you have access to.
Now, this dialog may look non-standard to people using spreadsheets, and the reason is that it is non-standard. So using AppScript, you can create custom UIs for your spreadsheets. You can use them you can build them using HTML and JavaScript via the HTML service. Alternatively, you can use UI service, which comes with a lot of built-in widgets like charts and drop-down boxes. And I think that that's what you guys are doing here.
Absolutely. And what's really cool is this drop-down box here is dynamically populated. So we're actually, for each of these drop-down boxes, we're issuing a query to our API to populate them. And it's as you change various selections, they'll change as well. So here we have a little pause. At Google, we all have to actually update our Macs. And I've been so busy preparing this demo that I haven't had a chance to run an update to Mountain Lion.
I love Murphy's Law. Don't you?
We knew this would run. There's no way for us to change it. Fantastic. So after a little brief interruption to streamline my day process, let's go back to the demo here. So as I was mentioning, what's cool about these drop-downs is as you select various drop-downs, we'll actually go ahead, query the different APIs, and update that. So right there was 3 queries we issued and updated the list and have different IDs.
What's this website right here?
So this is another blogger that we have. He's our digital evangelist at Google, Avinash Kaushik. And I have access to his blog's data. So if we wanted to access his data through the script, we can use this ID.
How did that happen?
Well, we're good friends, and we've done a lot of shows together.
No shoulder hacking, right?
So let's go back to our demo site, the Google Store. And it'll take a second. So I have a profile here, and we have one here. I'm going to go use the one that I'm familiar with, which is my test one, which is 1174. I already know it because I've done this demo a couple times. So the first thing is you figure out which profile you want to get data for. The second one is you need to figure out the date range. And so in analytics, you can put the start and end date. We've made a little function here to really simplify it. You can just get the last n days. This is really useful if you want to automate the script. You don't know what today's data is because it's automatically running. So for this, we'll say, let's get data for the last 28 days. Now, you also need to specify the data you get out of analytics. So here we have 2 values, metrics and dimensions. Metrics represents the numerical data. So we want to get the total amount of visits coming to our site. And dimensions represents the actual rows or the string values. So we want to get the source of traffic coming to the site as well. So we say GA source is the name of them. And we want to sort descending by GA visits. There's a couple other parameters here that are all documented. But the last important one is defining where does the data go when it's processed.
And before you go on, I mean, these values are totally unfamiliar to me. Where did you get these from? Is there a list of these somewhere?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So we actually have an amazing set of writers who are doing our developer documentations. And if you go to developers.google.com/analytics, you get this beautiful site. And if you go under the reporting, the core reporting API, in the reference section, we actually give you a list of all the 200 data points that we return. So if you click Expand All, you'll see a huge plethora of values for dimensions and metrics. Visits is right here. If you want to know what is a visit, you can click right into that, and boom, you get it's the counts, the total number of sessions.
Very, very cool.
So what we want to know is the total number of sessions for the last 28 days and show all the different traffic sources that sent that. So I'll say my report will be this sheet.
And what is this name that you're entering right here?
So what we want to do is put all the configurations in the GA config tab, right? So if we want to run multiple reports, they're all defined in one location. But where the data gets outputted will be to a separate tab. And so this will be the name of the tab. So what we'll see here is when this runs, all the data will be in the My Report tab.
So one thing that the analytics team is doing here is they're using Spreadsheets as a UI. And this is one of the very powerful things you can do with AppScript. With AppScript, you can create your own UIs using UI service or HTML service. But a lot of people have opted to use Spreadsheets because Spreadsheets itself it's very powerful. You've got sorting, you've got formulas. You already have a lot of things built in it. I would say you get for free already by using the Spreadsheets UI. And you guys have decided to go that route, which is, so another route you guys could have gone would have to build a pop-up box that allows people to input data. But you've got a lot of options when you're building UIs. So anyway, pardon my interruption.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we'll show you a little bit why we chose this route. I mean, there's definitely considerations on various designs. And this actually helps us out in some other ways. Let's go with the standard approach here. Once we've got the configuration report set up, we can go ahead under the Analytics menu and click Get Data. So again, we haven't written any code. We've just configured this script to run. The script is going out, using this configuration, and getting some data. And so what we've done is now create a little dialog that describes the status of this report. Here we've seen everything is successful, and we've gone ahead and we've written the results, and the script is done. Fantastic.
That status box could be a little prettier. I mean, I think it's lacking in the ponies department.
Yeah, if we had more images and like some animated GIFs and some blink tags, it would definitely work.
Marquee. Better. Don't forget marquee.
Marquee would be perfect. So what we've done here, we just, boom, just like magic. We just now have a report of all our analytics data in Google Spreadsheets. Here we see all the different traffic sources. Google right now for this site is returning the most traffic, but we see some of the other search engines, some referral traffic from YouTube, so forth as well. So that's a really quick overview of how easy it is to get data using app scripts in Spreadsheets.
So just out of curiosity, I mean, I know what these numbers are because you told me, but what would this look like on the analytics website?
It's a good question. So if you go into analytics, you can see all the data here. Here we see for this date range, we see there's a certain amount of visits. If we go to Google Analytics and sign in, and we get our report here. We'd be able to now go into the traffic sources overview section, take a look at the sources. Remember, we're looking at sources of traffic. And then here's the source tab. And so here, this is the same view of the data. The date range is slightly different. But here you get the top 10, and of course you could select this down to be the top 100 results as well. So this is how it would look in the Google Analytics interface.
This is a pretty robust interface. I mean, I guess you've walked into my trap, which is why would you want to export it to a spreadsheet? Why use AppScript at all? Why not just use this website?
Absolutely. For people not familiar with analytics, you can actually export all these different things. For example, you could to CSV or TSV for Excel. Now, that totally works in many cases. But what we really wanted to solve for is two use cases. One of them is that the permissions you have for analytics might be different than the permissions of data you have for people within your organization. And so by using AppScript, you actually have to authenticate to get access. The script has to authenticate, get access to your data to get the data into a spreadsheet. But once the data is in the spreadsheet, you now have all the Google Docs and Spreadsheets permissions to share that data within your organization. So for some people, they might not want to have all the CEO and all the marketing team have access to their Google Analytics data. Instead, they have one person with access to their GA data and then automate getting the data into a spreadsheet and share that. The other thing is automation. So over time, it takes a lot of clicks to go into all your different reports and export this to CSV. With the AppScript, you can completely automate that process, saving yourself a lot of time. So really, really easy ways to automate it.
What are some of the things that you could do after the, I know the answer to this question, but I'm curious to see if you know the answer. What are some of the things you could do after data's in the spreadsheet?
Yeah, so the first thing you might want to do is you might want to run this every day, right? You don't want to have to go and recreate this all the time. So there's some nice features built into spreadsheets along with app scripts that you can use. And one of them is called triggers. So if you go under Tools and you go into the script editor.
So this is this gets a little bit more advanced. So if you are one of these people that are not a full-time programmer, you'll still be able to use this tool. But some of this stuff may be a little bit more advanced. This is just a quick warning. So this is the script editor. This is where you write all of your code for AppScript. And you'll be able to open this up and see that all of the code for this tool that the analytics team has built, it's all just standard AppScript code.
Absolutely. And what's great about this is because it's just a script, all the source is available for developers. So if you want to learn some best practices of what to do, how to set up, take a same look at what we're doing here. All this code is completely available, open source. We even have some really nice documentation in the code here just so that you know what's going on. So aside from the code, if we wanted to automate running this script, under the resources menu, we have something called all your triggers. And so what triggers allows you to do is to run any of the functions that have been defined automatically.
Right. And triggers are a little bit more, triggers give you a lot of options. For instance, you can run them on a set schedule. That's one of the primary use cases. But in addition to doing that, you can also do things like set triggers on spreadsheets. You can set a spreadsheet so when a spreadsheet's edited, it automatically runs some code. You can run the code when the spreadsheet's opened. And one of the ones that I like the most is that it allows you to run code whenever someone submits a form. That's so cool. We use this all the time whenever we have events. Whenever we have events, we like to do on-form submit, and we send people an email that says, hey, thank you for registering. We have space. We don't have space for you. So triggers are ways, they're one of the many ways you can get to your app script. And I like them because you kind of say, run the script automatically when this event happens, hence the trigger.
Boom. And that's it. These triggers, the way we've used them is to actually automate actually getting data from your account. So when you create a new trigger, here's all the functions that we've offered. They're the same ones that are in the menu. You can click on the get data, which runs everything, all the configurations. You can do this time driven. You could have it run every day, and you could have it run midnight to 1 a.m. So that way, every night, all the data is going to be retrieved for the last 28 days. If there's any errors with it, you can actually set it up so that way I'll email if there's an error, so that way you can go back and get that stuff.
And with triggers, you can manage these programmatically. So what Nick is showing us here is how we can set up a trigger through the menu. But you can also set it up so that you can dynamically create triggers and dynamically delete triggers. And this is very, very powerful.
Absolutely. And so once you've set up the trigger, you hit save. And now every night, I'll get the last 28 days worth of data and put them directly into the spreadsheet. So that's a little quick overview of Magic Script and kind of how we've used app scripts to build an app that makes it super easy for non-technical people to actually access their Google Analytics data.
So a little bit more drilling down on that topic. AppScript allows you to go ahead and do a lot of really cool things. Like, for instance, you could email the results to people on a nightly basis. You could update a Google Doc. You can send them out via what's called URL fetch to an external API. I was just talking to someone today who was telling me how he uses a Cloud Print API this way, and he prints stuff. And it was a really funny lunch conversation because we were talking about how you could denial of service attack his printer. But we won't be teaching you guys how to do that today. So one question I have for you is, you were showing me something with a Google site earlier. What was that all about?
Absolutely. So AppScript's completely automated and integrated with all the other different Google properties. What's nice about here is with spreadsheets, now that the data is in a spreadsheet, there's some nice tools that are included. If we wanted to visualize this, you have all the visualization tools here. So if we wanted to get a chart of the top 10 sources of traffic, you just click the little button, click Insert, boom. You have a nice little chart that shows this data. Very easy way to have your data.
And this is nice because then if you use the Google Analytics Web API, you're kind of bound to whichever charts are already defined. But if you have some custom need for charts, if you need to integrate with different spreadsheets or different data sources, this is where AppScript really is kind of this like killer tool for taking all these different data sources and building a single dashboard for you.
Absolutely. And so what's nice about this is it's spreadsheets. It's also integrated with Google Sites, another Google product. And so what I could do is create a dashboard in Google Sites. So if I go to sites.google.com here, this is the free product that you can use. I can go ahead and create a new Google site. And creating this is probably the hardest part because there's a lot of stuff you have to input in here.
I'll bet you that's taken away. I bet you that's gone. We'll see. We'll see.
The hardest
what
part.
Does this say?
That's a good question.
Oh, maybe this means you're a robot.
All right. Will it work? Oh, it's not available.
Just bang some keys, dude.
All right. There it goes.
And it looks like the site is being created right now.
That's it. Here's a brand new Google site. If I want to do is I could just click Edit Page, go to Insert, and go ahead and click under Chart. We'll see here's the spreadsheet that I was working with earlier. Go ahead and select that. And you'll see the chart that I created from that data is right there. So I can go ahead and click this chart, go ahead and save it. It's embedded. And what happens now when I save this page is I'll have access to see this chart directly in Spreadsheets. So this is like a beautiful way that you can actually have multiple charts running all in the same dashboard. And you can present this dashboard to different users who are curious about how many people are going to your fantasy football team and how many people are going to those pages.
Very, very cool. So we've got a few minutes left, and there have been some questions in Google Moderator. So let's take some time to answer a few of these.
For sure.
So Nick and Ikai, while you're going through that, Cesar had a question on the YouTube live stream, was asking about testing. He says he was testing during the week, and he wants to know if there's a way to have the catalog of metrics and dimensions automatic instead of consulting the guide.
That's a great question. So this has been a big feature request: is how can is there an API for the dimensions and metrics? There currently isn't. We have a pretty comprehensive guide. It's something we're looking at. So currently no, but we're looking into that. But great question.
It's something we could totally do at some point using a drop-down via the Spreadsheets pop-up again. But nothing to announce, right?
Right. Right now we don't have an Right now we don't have an API. It's we have a lot of tools, a lot of people asking for it, but definitely a great feature request.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Let's go to the moderator page.
So the first question here is from A. Taylor in McKinney, Texas. He asked, how can I pull a Google Analytics report into a temporary Google document that will expire after 30 days?
Self-destructing.
Yeah.
I like it. I like this. This is something that you can do via triggers, and we were just talking about setting up time triggers. And one nice thing is that you can programmatically create triggers using code. You can say, I don't remember the exact code, it's new trigger, new clock-based trigger, and you set a date that you want something to be deleted. And you could totally create that for a document that says, for this document, delete this bad boy after 30 days if it's still around. And when it does that, the document will be gone. So it's not built into Docs, but it's something that you can do with AppScript.
I think that's what's beautiful about AppScript, is if there's a feature like this that's not within what's provided, you can definitely write that functionality in to do exactly that. That's
Right.
a great answer. So here's the second question. This is from Jimmy in Birmingham, Alabama. How can I modify the script to pull data from multiple GA accounts into one report? That's a fantastic question. I will actually show you how easy it is. The way we set this up here is within the actual screen is if you go to the GA config tab, you can actually create multiple reports. And so if I create another core report here, you'll see another 2 columns being added into the spreadsheet here. And there you go. And so as long as you specify the IDS parameter here, now you can say, whatever the other IDS parameters you have, this could be in a different account. When you call get data, each of the different tabs that you define, so for example, this should be like report 2, the data will be actually executed sequentially for each of these reports. So I was talking to one person, he had 13 reports configured in one spreadsheet. So every night, 13 queries were made to create, update 18 tabs. So definitely possible.
And that's really nice because then you don't have to go to 13 different tabs in your browser. You get them all in one report.
Exactly. Super easy.
So speaking of reports, Red Lodias from YouTube asks, can you embed those reports on a website from AppScript?
You can, yes, there's lots of different ways. And one way is, for instance, you can, with AppScript, you can publish a web page via the HTML service. And when you do this, you can either iframe that data. And there's one more way, which is AppScript has something called a content service where you can publish some kind of JSON result. And you can create, using the gviz library, you can consume a JSON result by setting a data source. And that's one thing that there's an API for get data source URL in the charts API. So using the charts API, you can spit out a data source API, and you can consume that on a different website. Or you can use the iframe method. You've got a lot of different ways of doing this.
Absolutely. I think one of the easiest ways, as I was mentioning, is if you make your chart public, you can actually query that data source from the visualization charts API, and then you can get the data directly on the page as well. It's really interesting because we actually have a lot of quotas for the analytics service. So in this case, when you put the data in the app scripts and you query app scripts, it actually acts as a caching layer. So that way you can adhere to our quota to get the data from our service once, which is the expensive part, and then just serving the read-only data then to all your users is cheap, and then you can get around it.
And when you say expensive, cheap, you mean like computationally?
Yeah,
time-wise.
Right. So you might have billions of pages, billions of data points that analytics is processing for any of these given queries, right? And we've abstracted the complexity here. So for certain queries, it could be very complex, and so we do have different quotas for our analytics API than Spreadsheets has for querying as a data source.
So I think we've got time for just one more question.
Great. So the other question here is from Anna N. in New York City, and she asks, please tell me how to compare time periods. This is a great question, Anna. It might not be actually apparent, but the solution really is here is to actually create 2 queries where each of the different time periods is slightly different. And so what I showed you here is how you can create data for the last n days. And so what you can also do here is you can actually create start days and end dates. And so what's nice about this is Spreadsheets has a lot of functions built in, and one of the ones I like is the now function. And so if I say equals now, it will give me today's date. There it is. And the way we wrote the script is that whether it's today's date in this representation or the other representation that we have in analytics, the script will still run fine. So if I do now equals now minus 7, I'll get 7 days ago. And so for the first query, I'll have the last 7 days where now is automatically updating. And then for the second query, I'll say equals now, the end date will be equals now minus 8, 1 day before there. And I'll say equals now minus 14. And now, as long as I can then copy and paste the different dimensions, when I run these 2 reports, and execute them, you'll see the different date ranges for that data. So really simple way to get 2 time ranges that are always changing day over day into different reports.
Okay. And with that, I think we're out of time, which is unfortunate because I feel like we've got so much to talk about here.
Yeah.
Was it follow-up show? Sequel?
Potentially,
We'll see.
yeah.
We'll see. Send this video out to your friends, all right, and get the views up there, and we'll do a sequel. Thank you guys so very much for joining us today. And if you're on the live show, if you're not, thank you for watching this video. My name is Ikai Lan.
And my name is Nick Mihailovski.
And we'll be catching you at the next show.
Yep. Take care.
Take it easy, guys.